Hello Fretwellers and welcome back to my Minecraft tutorial. This is episode 84 and in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at horses, we're going to be taming horses, we're going to be riding horses, and we are also going to be taking a look at horse stats. So this has been long anticipated. I'm really looking forward to it as I haven't played with the horses too much, but we're going to mess around with them today. Just to keep you in the loop of what's happened since the last episode, I've kind of decorated out the barn a little bit. I dug a step mine and found a mine shaft, and I've also set up some farms here. We've got wheat, potatoes, carrots, and sugarcane at the moment. We've also got this chest set up here for the next couple of episodes with some supplies in, which is all various different things to do with horses. But before we get right to that, I want to kind of introduce how this episode is going to run, because there is a lot to talk about in today's episode, and to keep it simple and easy, we're just going to have a simple running order to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about horses and a little bit about them and kind of some basic knowledge on horses. We're then going to tame one, and I'm going to show you how to tame one, and also ways that you can increase the chance of taming and make it quicker, things like that. And then we're going to take a look at actually riding a horse, sort of controlling him, moving him around, jumping, and that sort of thing. And then for the final part of the episode, we're going to delve a little bit into stats. Now, I'm not going to go all out and tell you absolutely everything about stats, because truth be told, it's not very interesting, but I will give you a basic introduction if you are interested in stats. We will come back to stats a little bit in the next episode when we talk about breeding and horse armor, because it becomes more important then. And we're also going to talk about donkeys, you can see one over there, in a couple of episodes' time as well. We're just going to be focusing on horses for the moment. So, we're going to go on a little adventure, see if you can find a nice horse that I would like to tame. And I'm going to pick up some saddles and some other equipment. And we're going to talk a little bit about horses while we go looking for one. So, horses only spawn in plains and the new 1.7 biome, the Savannah. And they are the only biomes that they will spawn in. They will not spawn in any others. And they spawn in herds, so similar to other passive animals, like you would get a group of cows, a group of pigs, things like that. Then horses are exactly the same, they spawn in herds, and they all have the same colour. I'm going to make up some golden carrots here, because we need a few. So yeah, they spawn with the same colour. Always will spawn with the same colour in the same herd. If you see two different colours, chances are it's two herds that have spawned together. But they all have different pattern variations within that herd. So if you look over here, for example, we have a herd. It's kind of spread out a little bit now, but there's a brown horse over there, a brown horse here, and a brown horse over there, and another one over there. They are all the same colour roughly, but their patterns are different. In this case, actually, they're the same, but trust me, they can be different. The problem is, a lot of the horses have spread out now because we've been here so long, and I've been working a lot off camera, so it's kind of difficult. There's one there that's kind of spotty, but then there's one over here which is not. So just bear that in mind, that you will often find similar types of horses together. This is a good example. You can see we've got sort of like a pinto there, and then sort of like a sooty look on this guy. So at the moment there are 5 variations of horse in general, and that is the horse itself, donkeys, mules, skeleton horses, and zombie horses. And the zombie and skeleton horses you can't get access to in survival mode. They're a map maker only feature, and mules are inaccessible by just going around looking. We'll talk about mules when we talk about donkeys. And that's that as regards horses. I'm going to look over here, see what we can see. So all horses feature the same stocky build, and they can be in one of 7 base colours, should I say. And that is either white, buckskin, dark bay, black, dapple grey, and flaxen chestnut. Horses also have a secondary colouring known as markings. That's what we've just talked about a little bit. And the markings are 5 different types. You can have no markings at all, stockings and blaze, snowflake, Appaloosa, paint, and sooty. So Quite a few different ones there. Not really seeing anything, although I quite like the look of that guy right there. Ooh, got one in a pit here. Oh man, these guys, they're at risk. You better take out your insurance. So, the main usage for horses in the game is transportation. They're a lot faster than players. They're a lot cheaper than minecarts. The only thing that they can't really cover very well is water, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But just keep that in mind. They are faster than minecarts. They are more all-terrain, but they do have trouble with water. Now, as I said, horses are hydrophobic. They will throw the rider off if swimming in water deeper than 2 blocks, and then will be difficult to coax back onto land or shallow enough water to actually remount. You can stay away. I'm not interested in what you're doing today. So let's go find that horse and let's tame a horse now, because we've talked about them enough. Let's actually tame them. So, where is that guy? He's right here. Okay. So, we've got a horse, and as you can see, look, this is a herd right here. You've got similar colours, but just different markings. So this guy, now you can walk up to him. He's going to do a couple of little animations. He'll put his head down as if he was chewing the grass, wag his tail, jump around, occasionally look at you, and things like that. But in order to tame him, you need to right-click on him. But if you right-click with anything that is not your hand, it won't work. He will just kind of buck like that. So you need to right-click with just your empty hand. Then you'll get on, and he will throw you off a couple of times. And this is the taming process. You have to do it over and over and over. And you can see down there, we've got some different horse stats and things that we'll talk about in a little bit. And you keep trying. Roughly each time you try, the chance of actually taming the horse goes up about 5%. Now, this won't hurt at all. It won't hurt the horse, unless he falls, that is, but they try not to. And as you can see, we've got the love hearts there, so we've now actually tamed this horse. Now, we can't move him, because we don't have a saddle on him yet. But now we've tamed him, we can either press E to bring up the horse inventory screen, we can left shift, and then we can shift right click. And they're the two ways that I know of that you can actually access that. Don't go in that hole. Be hard work getting you out there. So let's just right click on the guy, let's get on him, let's press E, and we'll get our saddle. And we'll pop the saddle on the horse. So he's now got a saddle, and you just do that by dropping it on the slot there. So now this horse is actually movable by the player. You don't need no carrot on a stick like you did with the pig. You need nothing like that. All you need is to actually just put the saddle on, and then you use your directional keys as if you were walking to actually move the horse around. And that is basically how you move a horse. Now that you've tamed him, you are all set. So, as you can see, you can traverse these steps here. And one thing you will notice is horses kind of glide at 1 block high slopes. That's one big advantage. It saves you jumping. As you can see up here, we can just kind of glide up the mountain. And back down again. Now, this guy is quite a fast horse. Doesn't have a lot of health. So, we'll just take a quick ride around here. But if I go in this water, for example, he's going to be fine in this because it's only 1 block deep. 2 blocks deep or any deeper than that, then you're going to have some trouble. So that is how you tame a horse. Now, we'll look at actually how to ride them. We've already shown off the fact that you can move around using W, A, S, and D. Now, one thing to note with that is moving backwards or sideways is pretty slow on a horse. So you're generally better off to turn around. It could do a pretty quick loop, and then you can go back again, rather than actually trying to reverse. Like that. One thing to note is when moving them around, they are 1.5 blocks wide. So you need 2 fence gates to put them in a pen, instead of 1. And the horse with us on it is also 3 blocks tall. So if I attempted to go through any sort of 3 block high area, 2 block high area, but then attempt to go through that, then I'm going to get suffocated because the horse will go, and I will go with him, but because it's 3 blocks in a too high area, you will suffocate. So just bear that in mind when traveling around with a horse. You can do everything you would normally do on horseback, so you can fight, shoot the bow. It doesn't matter even if you shoot right down, you will not hit the horse, so you don't have to worry about that. You can mine, you can dig, you can chop down trees if you want to. Let me just show you how it works here. You can see I dug that dirt block there. So that's all doable. It's just that you're on a horse. You can do anything. You can eat. You can place blocks as well. So if I bring these down, shift click doesn't work while you're using the horse. So just keep that in mind. As you can see here, we can build. We can break down. We can collect blocks. So you've got a lot of flexibility with the horse, honestly. They are a bit limited in a little sense, but they're pretty good, honestly. If you want to do things well on a horse, they're pretty flexible. So, in addition to all of this stuff, you can actually jump using a horse, and you will see that down there, where the XP bar normally is another bar, and that is the jump bar. And to jump, you hold the space bar. And what you do is you jump by holding down the space bar, and you hold it down, and that meter fills up. And you need to get the meter as full as you possibly can. So I didn't do too bad there. Was a bit slow there. Is not much of a jumper, this one. They can jump, I think, anywhere from around 2 blocks to around maybe 5. The best jumpers you can get. And that's actually a horse stat, which we'll talk about in a moment. See, we got a bit high that time. It's all about just getting the timing right. We did do pretty well there. As you can see, I jumped over that fence post. You've just got to keep a little bit in mind when using the jump. It just takes a little bit of practice to get good at, and it also depends a little bit on the horse and what his jumping stat is. So that's how you jump. So moving around, WASD and jump, which is the space bar. And that is it as regards actually riding a horse. There's not too much more to say than that. Very, very simple stuff. Very easy to use, which I'm pretty happy about. Now, one thing to do note is if you are in combat, the horse will take a little bit of damage, and just bear that in mind. The horse will naturally regenerate health over a very slow period of time. I think it's like maybe half a heart every minute, or maybe even slower than that, so just bear that in mind. Now, going back to the taming, I'm going to show you another way that you can help the taming of horses. We're going to go get another one. I'm going to get another saddle here, and we've got some various food. Now, you can encourage a horse to like you by feeding them certain types of food, and that is sugar, wheat, bread, hay bales, golden carrots, golden apples, and I think regular apples. And by the way, there's going to be a link down below to the horse page on the Minecraft wiki, and you can check out all those exact details there. This is just a basic introduction to horses. So let's feed this guy some sugar. I quite like the look of this one. So if you feed him sugar, he will open his mouth and you'll start and consume sugar. Now, every time you feed him a piece of sugar, he is 3% more likely to accept you. So we've fed him a fair bit of sugar. So now if I jump on his back, he may be more willing to accept us. As you can see there, he accepted us first time. So each of the different foods actually... I'm going to put the saddle on as well, and we're going to move this guy around. Each of the different foods have a different percentage associated with them as to how quickly they will like you. So, for example, the sugar is only 3%. You have a 3% increased chance after feeding him one piece of sugar. Wheat, I think, is 5%. Golden carrots are roughly in the region of maybe 5 to 10%. Hay bales are probably the biggest, which is 20%, I think. But don't quote me on that. There will be a link, as I say, down below to all the exact math there. But it's just a case of feed them stuff, they'll like you quicker. And you can just use any of these various things. So bread, sugar, wheat, golden carrots, golden apples, and hay bales. And I don't actually have any hay bales at the moment with me, so we can't show that off. So this guy actually has more hearts than the other one. Seems to be a bit better of a jumper as well. See, we've got a right full bar there. but he doesn't seem to be as fast as that other horse. So just bear that in mind a little bit when choosing your horse. You can usually tell, because if they have a lot of HP, they don't usually have a lot of speed. And jumping is kind of a bit of a unpredictable one. Like this guy, he could really jump, like at a full jump. Probably looking at 3 or 4 blocks there, which is pretty cool stuff, I have to say. So, moving on from the actual taming of them, you can't really tame them any other way than that. We will actually, we talked about riding, so the last thing to talk about is actually the stats associated with a horse. And there are lots of different stats. Well, there's only 3 actually. I guess I should say that there is a lot. There's only 3. Sounds like there's a zombie around somewhere. We'll demonstrate combat on a horse as well, seeing as it's getting towards night time. And we'll talk a little bit about stats while we wait for that. So stats are actually, see, I can kill the chicken. There we go. Stats, there's 3 stats with a horse. There is the HP, there is the jump, and also the speed of a horse. So the HP is anywhere between 15 and 30 hearts. At the moment, this guy has, I think, 13 or something. I think half a heart is each point, so 15 hearts is the maximum you can get, and we have 13 there. Now, through breeding, you can actually get better stats and things, and we'll talk about that more in the breeding episode. And the stats are a bit confusing, honestly. There's a lot of numbers floating around with them, but basically, the 3 stats will determine what your horse is good at and what it's not good at. So, a horse with a lot of HP is going to be a bit slower than a horse with less HP. That's just the way it works to kind of balance them a bit. But through breeding, you can actually create a horse that's fast and has a lot of HP. And again, we'll talk about that in the breeding episode. But I'm just going to flick the wiki up here and see what it actually says in relation to the actual stats. So, according to the wiki, health runs from 15 to 30, with most horses having an average of around 22.5. So you can get half a heart with horse HP. And that is in hit points, so 1 point is worth half a heart. So according to this, it's 13, so we have 26. So we're on the high end, but that guy's a bit lower than the other guys that we've had. Put that torch wrong, didn't I? There is also the... I'm just going to put these torches up. There we are. Now we can actually demonstrate fighting a zombie here. There we go. You can see. Fight a zombie. You can shoot a bow. Why don't we... is there anything we can shoot? There's an Enderman. We can't shoot him. That'd be a bad idea. Let's shoot the pig. As you can see, we shoot the pig there. And you can use the bow. So I think we're going to put him away now. Shown all of that stuff. So we'll put him inside here. There we go. And we'll also sleep. There we are. So there is also the jump, and that is called jump strength. Oops. And the jump strength is between 0.4 and 1.0 in internal units. But the average for jump is around 0.7. But it is from 0.4, which is the lowest, and 1.0, which is the highest. And again, that could be altered through breeding and whatnot. And the maximum speed is anywhere from 0.1125 to 0.3375, but with an internal average of around 0.225. And that is in internal units. By comparison, the player's walking speed is 0.1. So no matter what horse you get on, even if it's the slowest horse ever, it's still going to be faster than a player walking. So they are a worthwhile get, honestly. They do improve speed. I could seriously travel a reasonable distance using this horse. We'll just take him out for a ride now, actually. And we'll see how fast he can get going, because they do increase in speed over time. They don't just start out and get to 0 to 60 in 0.01 seconds or whatever. So this guy's a pretty fast horse. We're traveling at, I would say, roughly maybe around 5 to 8 blocks per second. I think we'd be pushing it a little bit, saying it was 10 blocks per second. Desert over here. Never seen that before. And I've never been over here, so it would make sense that I've never seen it. So it's always a good idea to pick up a horse if you're going to be doing a lot of land traveling. If you're near the coast, I wouldn't recommend it, or if you have plans of sailing anywhere, as it's very difficult to move horses around that way. You can use leads if you want to, and that's the best way of doing that. We haven't looked at those yet, but we will be looking at them sooner rather than later, in a couple of episodes' time, as to how they work. But if you're going to be traveling long distances by boat, then I wouldn't recommend using a horse. Does it well there? I would recommend obviously sticking with the boat. They are a good alternative to minecarts if you don't have a lot of iron, but minecarts are typically are a little better for certain things. Horses are better for above ground traveling, minecarts are better for underground traveling. Now, one thing we still have to talk about with horses is actually the way they work with nether portals, because you can ferry them through the nether. Big cave there. So we'll take a look at that before we head out, I think, for today. So we'll just head back to our base here, and we'll show off how it works with nether portals. So I may tame a couple around here, I might not. I honestly don't know at this point whether I need to tame more or not. I may take a look at a few off camera. Probably not before the next episode, but at some point before heading out of this area, I'll probably take a look at some horses. So if you actually attempt to go through a portal, you will just go through it. You won't be teleported anywhere. As you can see, I'm in the portal now, I won't go anywhere. And that is intended, it's not a bug. In order to go through the portal and send the horse through, you have to dismount and push the horse through. Now, I'm not going to do that because it will be a nightmare getting him back, honestly. But that's the way you do it. You push the horse through, then you go through yourself, and you can move them wherever you want from there. But just bear in mind that if you want to move a horse somewhere, the tunnel is going to have to be horse-friendly, so that means 3 high and 2 wide in order to move them around. You can't just send them through a 2x1, which is what players need to move. So, if you're going to be traveling long distances in the nether, taking a horse may not be the best thing to do. So we'll just put this guy away, as we're done with him now. There we are, we'll hop off. And you can take the saddle just by shift right clicking, and then you can re-equip again if you want, so you can kind of change around your saddles. They won't go anywhere while ever they're in a pen, but if you leave them not leashed or not in a pen just out in the open, they do have a tendency to wander off. So be careful about that. You don't want to lose your horse, and particularly your saddle as well, because they're pretty hard to come by, honestly, unless you have some sort of good fishing farm in the next version. So that is pretty much a basic rundown into horses. They do work with splash potions, so you can splash them with things. So if you get on the horseback, for example, and you decide you want to do a splash potion, then you just right click and it would hit the horse. But it probably isn't going to hit you too well. Or you can just throw it at the horse while not riding it. But be aware that if you're too close, then you're going to actually get on the horse. And of course, left shift to dismount. It already says that. Again, I've not gone too much into the stats and the way they work, because it gets pretty complicated. But let it be known that there are just the 3 stats, and they have a certain value assigned to them. And if you want to know the math, it's all there on the wiki, if you want to work it out. We will go a bit more in-depth to the stats themselves when we talk about breeding in the next episode. And actually breeding these guys, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But even then, we're not going to go too in-depth. So if you want to know all the nitty-gritty with stats and whatnot, the wiki's your best place. And there will be a link down below. So, yeah, that's going to be just about it for today's episode, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed. I hope that you've enjoyed the fact that we've finally got horses only 6 months after they were released. So, we get there in the end. Next episode will be all about horse armor and horse breeding. And then we'll talk about donkeys and mules, and that kind of wraps up our little mini-series on the horse. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing you then. Until next time, see you later, and have a good day.